Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pride Podcast, episode 387 on the Blue Wire Network. I am your host, Tyler, joined by a very special guest today, former Detroit Lion, joining back, Zach Zenner. Zach, how are we feeling today, brother?
Doing well, Tyler. Doing well. A little cold up here in Minnesota, but to be expected.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Super Bowl yesterday?
Yes. I have young children, and so I don't get to watch or lock in as much as I would like. Especially we were at my brother-in-law's house, and I can't expect other people to watch my kids for me.
Right.
I did pass them off to the family for a lot of the first half, but then the second half, I spent the majority of the second half and the halftime show with my kids, hanging out with them, playing football, that sort of thing. But definitely the first half, yeah, it was a good game for the
Yeah.
Eagles.
Right. Do you find it's still cool to watch some of your former teammates like Slays on the Eagles now, and I'm assuming you watch Stafford on the Rams and stuff. Is it cool to see some of your former teammates still going?
Absolutely, yeah. The hard part about watching games on TV is that I don't get to see, like I don't know how well Slay's doing on the outside as much, right, as when I would get to watch more of the game film. Um, but absolutely fun to watch those guys perform, and really fun that to see Matthew continue to knock at the door, have another good season. Man, what a disappointing ending for that team. Like they decide essentially not to block one of the Eagles' best interior pass rushers on the final two plays of the game, and two sacks, and it's over, right? I mean, he threw the second one, but had to throw it crazy early because it was the same problem. So I don't know, I don't know who messed up there, but that was a major mistake on the offense from the protection unit, right? Which is quarterback, running back, offensive line, and coordinator, right? And it's coordinator who's calling the plays, who's calling it in and how. Sometimes tight end, running back, offensive line, quarterback, right? Two mistakes in a row cost, it kind of came down to their season came down to that, unfortunately.
100%. So let's get a little bit more about you now. So now it's post NFL. You haven't been in the league since 2019. I mean, you're doing a little bit of everything right now, it seems. But what are some of the things you're doing since post NFL?
Yeah, I mean, aside from being a dad and a husband, I am an NFL agent and a health coach. So mentoring and coaching people in football, and mentoring, coaching other people on how to optimize their bodies and minds for performance. I did also get a master's in nutrition, so I'm not just the typical fitness bro that's saying, here, so I got muscles. Here's what you need to do to get muscles too, right? It's got a little bit of that formal education behind me, which I got through the NFL Trust Scholarship, which was awesome. So yeah, helping people get healthier, helping people make it to the NFL. It's a lot of fun.
Well, that's my next question because I remember, I want to say it was 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were studying for an MCAT while still playing in the league.
Mhm.
Like, how was that balance? Because, a lot of people have to dedicate one or the other, and you were able to do both at the same time. So, how was that?
Yeah, the interesting thing, right, is the MCAT is the medical college admissions test, and I ended up not going to medical school. So, although I don't think that time was wasted, I think looking back, I wish I had done something else with those 6 weeks I spent studying for the MCAT instead of not using that really good test score. Um, I did do research in my off seasons in the NFL, medical research, laboratory research. The purpose of that was to prepare for medical school because that was the plan. I'd gotten accepted before I tried out for the Detroit Lions, and I was going to attend medical school when I was done playing. That became not the right path, for a number of different reasons. But all of that experience and continuing to keep my mind sharp, right? That certainly played a factor in becoming a health coach and a master's in nutrition, and soon to be certified nutrition specialist. So that's the licensure I'm going for in that, and that's part of my life, um, which is the same legal designation as a dietitian, essentially.
Right. So now NFL agent, when did that come into play, and when did you start to focus, be more dedicated towards going towards that?
That kind of came up. It was not that wasn't in my plan at all. But the opportunity came about. The agent that represented me had another former player, Jeremiah Searles, who played in the NFC North for the Vikings for a number of years as an offensive lineman. He was for sure like they had talked about it for a couple of years. Hey, like this, you know, um, that's what he was going to do. That was part of his plan. So he had another one of his former clients joining him in the agency. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to medical school. And he thought, hey, like maybe Zach wants to do it as well, right? And then I tried it out and ended up loving it, but really enjoying the opportunity to utilize my wisdom, experience, football knowledge to help guys get to the next level and stay there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because it sounds like you were an agency, but when you were playing, sometimes you see players just represent themselves. They don't go through agencies. It sounds like that was not the case for you, obviously, and you're joining your former agency rather. So, um, I saw you were at the Senior Bowl a couple weeks ago in Mobile, Alabama. Is that part of the whole agency thing right now? Is that one of your first times going?
No, we were there a couple of years ago. This is our fourth draft class together. So yeah, was in Mobile 2 years ago. Was in Mobile this past year. Excuse me, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it was great weather this time, but very fun. Had two players down there, Logan Brown and Keandre Jackson, and you know, watching those guys practice in front of NFL teams, and then helping them between practices and helping them to prepare for that week. Talking to scouts while we're down there, meeting up with old contacts, including Lion scouts. Always very fun.
There we go. Well, let's go on the playing side now. Let's talk about your pre-draft process. So you're from South Dakota State, went undrafted, got picked up by the Detroit Lions. How was your pre-draft process? And did the Lions show interest right away? Like, was that a team you saw yourself going towards? Towards the draft or after the draft?
I don't remember the amount of interest that the Lions had. I don't remember it being any more than any other team. Honestly, I feel like the team that wanted me the most was probably the Ravens,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. The Ravens and the Redskins, I think, and the Texans. Probably the three teams. Maybe a couple more in there. I probably had solid interest, moderate to good interest for about half the NFL teams. Yeah, I mean the pre-draft process though, it's a grind because you go right from your season into preparing for the combine, into preparing for mini camp, into training camp and preparing for your season. So, it's really a year and a half straight, right? If you count the end of July of your senior year to the end of January after your first NFL season, or excuse me, end of December, right? Early January. It's a very long process and also very fun. A lot of fun things, right? I was done with school. I'd graduated in December, so that was very enjoyable to not have school, not have a heavy academic load, and just be able to train. I really enjoyed that. Um, but so it's kind of like the days are long and the weeks are short kind of thing, and just it rolls, and you do your best to stay healthy and go and to push through it.
Yeah. So ultimately made Detroit the number one choice to sign with.
So my agent, who's now my partner, had done some analysis and found that that was one of the best situations for me to make the active roster, partly because Amir and I were different, both in body type and in running styles.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Amir Abdullah is a complete. He's still going too, which is crazy. I see him still
Yeah.
playing with the Raiders. Had a pretty good year too for them. So,
Heck
but yeah,
yeah, Amir's killing it. I mean, for his, I mean, he was always a crazy athlete, right? I mean, and that's just on display now to be a running back through year 10 and to look how he looks. It's from a movement skills perspective, I think is really impressive and a testament to his work ethic and what he's done to invest in his body and who
yeah,
and his athletic ability.
definitely a grinder because obviously being a second round pick, having high expectations, and he had to slowly move into special teams for a little bit, but now getting a little bit rolled back into being like a number one, number two running back, because it's impressive. Because a lot of guys don't see that much time in the league, so it's impressive what he's doing out there in Vegas right now. So,
Mhm.
um, I want to talk about that 2016 season because that is, I think, one of the most bonkers Detroit Lions seasons ever as a fan. I mean, with what you guys were able to accomplish with the comeback victories, and I think 8 out of the 9 victories were all comeback victories in the fourth quarter. Every running back essentially went down that year. We talk about Amir Abdullah. He went down early. Theo goes down. I think Joey Bell went down. You guys bring in Justin Forsett. You have yourself. You have Dwayne Washington. You
Dwayne.
got, yeah, Dwayne Washington there. So explain to me, what was that 2016 season for you?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I think the interesting part for me is when I'd broken my ribs the year prior, I felt like I had to start over, kind of in 2016, right? Start at the bottom of the depth chart again, and uh, and that's what happened, right? And that's I knew that's how it would be, and then have the unfortunate injuries to my teammates, right? Just opened up that opportunity and tried to take advantage of it as best I could. I mean, I don't really know what it was about that year, right? But whenever Matthew was in our huddle, right, and we had the ball, if there was a chance to win it, I knew we had a chance. Going even back to when um, that play at Minnesota, where we're starting from our own our own 20-yard line with
Right. Yeah.
however many seconds left, right?
It's like
We
24
basically got
seconds, one timeout, I think.
no, I think it was one time out. Ridiculous, right? Whatever that situation was. No, I don't think anyone on our offense ever doubted we could get it done. Um, with him back there calling the plays and running the show. So a lot of fun that year. And really, I mean, heck, shoot, that next year the refs kind of took one away from us. I mean, I hate to bash on the refs, but they called Golden Tate in 2017, right? They called a touchdown. Oh, we got to review it. He's not in by a half inch, and we don't have any timeouts. Ted's second runoff, and the game is over. Well, so if they call it right on the, and I don't know how I don't fault them for not being able to tell that it was so close. And you want to do things in that position where you do things up to that point where you're not in that position, right? But if that call is different, whether Golden runs his route a half inch farther, or the refs get the call correct on the field and Matthew does a quarterback sneak to score, or whatever you want to say, we make the playoffs that year too, most likely.
Yeah, because you guys went 9-7 that year. You guys had a good start that year. I remember in 2017. I think you guys started off 2-0, and then probably should have started off 3-0, being the Falcons too. So that was you guys had some interesting seasons. So I want to talk about that because you mentioned a little bit how you had a broken rib injury in 2015, and then there was a transition from a general manager standpoint. They went from Martin Mayhew, the guy who brought you in, I mean his staff, and then they transitioned to a new staff. Caldwell and his staff are still there, but new general manager Bob Quinn takes over. I guess what were your thought processes? Coming off a big injury, new general manager, you kind of said like you had to start from scratch a little bit. I guess take me through the thought process of when they brought in a new general manager and a new staff at that time.
To be honest, I didn't really know. I didn't really consider dive into how that would affect me because my job remained the same and what I needed to do on a day-to-day basis didn't change. Um, I did get a new running back coach, so in that sense, right, it was kind of that was the biggest change, right? Because I'm a very good test taker, very good at I'm good at understanding what how people want questions to be answered, what they're looking for, and whether it be in a meeting room or on an exam. It's actually one of the reasons why I did very poorly in an immunology course in college because it had 3 different professors, so I couldn't figure it out what to study for. Right,
Right.
I had to. It was new every time, new every test within the semester. But no, overall, it was just about my day-to-day stuff, right? I mean, I think now looking at it from an agent perspective, I think that would have been if my one of my clients were to be in that situation today, that would be slightly concerning, right? Just you think, oh well, there's not a lot tied to the regime that took you is gone, right?
Right.
Um, but that being said, too, it's not always like complete overhaul, right? It's pretty rare for a complete changing of the guard. So many of the scouts that likely liked my tape enough to bring me in or signed off on me, right? Many of those people were probably still around.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a complete overhaul. I mean, it was a new general manager, assistant GM. It wasn't like they brought in a new coaching staff and all that. So, I guess you could explain here, but I'm assuming you probably felt more effect when they did the coaching change in 2018 and brought in Matt Patricia to be the new head coach. I mean, what was the transition from going from Jim Caldwell to Matt Patricia's regime?
That was very different, very different. I think though, even too, when Bob came in and as the general manager, that was a change as well, just from a perspective of the amount of roster turnover that we had. We went from a general manager who really believed, hey, once the practice squad and once the roster is set, we want to pretty much keep it the same and make changes if we have to. But these are the guys we like, and these are the guys we're rolling with, right? Try to build a cohesive unit. When Bob Quinn came in that 2016 season, um, we were cycling people in and out at a much, much, much higher rate. Fulfilling specific needs on a week to week basis or moving on from people off and on. Anyway, that continued, and then we brought in Coach Patricia. Was much different philosophy from the workload perspective. So Coach Caldwell had always believed, hey, I want my guys to be fresh. You let me know if we're too sore. We'll take some plays off. We're going to be fast. We're going to be effective. We're going to be efficient, and we're going to be on and off the field. Um, the efficiency component stayed the same, but the workload and the duration of practices greatly increased under Coach Patricia. So that was an immediate change. Um, there were a couple other changes as well, but I think that's one of the most immediate ones. We also changed. Um, I believe we changed strength coaches. Who do we have in 16? I think Nash might have been there in 16 also. Anyway, there was just a lot of and then some other new people were added. Some different trainers were added in 2018, right? Just some kind of support staff changes. So anyway, just kind of a lot changed. A lot was different, both philosophically and in the actual workload that we went through on a week to week basis.
Was it, would you say, good change, bad change, or just a different philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we played worse. Um,
Right.
we didn't win as many games, and that's the ultimate indicator of success in the NFL, right? So I think then you'd say it was worse. I think it could have worked. You know what I mean? I don't know if this other approach was wrong, but it didn't work, right? So then, like, okay, uh, then obviously that wasn't the right thing to do at the time. Um, I'll say this about Coach Patricia and his coaching style is that I've just in your one-on-one interactions with him, he was very kind, very personable, um, very good listener. Um, he did something very kind for me personally and my family. When our second son was born, when I was on the team, he bought him a book
Okay.
and signed it, which was super cool. Um, but then that was contrasted with being in front of the group, uh, kind of being the opposite of that in many ways. And just kind of felt like maybe obviously felt like that's what he needed to do to lead us. And so there was this kind of contrasting of personalities a little bit. That was something that I didn't enjoy, but was fine dealing with it. Ultimately, I think it's just all about winning, right? I mean, I think people can put up with anything, and did put up with the similar style of coaching in New England when you win games, right? And I felt like in 2019, people were really bought into that. Like I really felt like in 2019, like even in the preseason, and they ended up releasing me. Um, but I felt like people were like, okay, like last year didn't work, but like it'll work this year, and then it didn't work again, and then I think that's kind of when it was really tough.
Right. I mean, obviously, you know the business side of it, but was it a surprise or shock to you at all when you got released by the Lions?
When I got released. Actually, to me, no, I wasn't performing as well as I had. I'd taken a step back in my play for a number of different reasons. Mainly, mainly physically, my body was starting to break down a little bit on me. Um, I wasn't playing as well as I needed to play, or as well as I had in the past, and that's kind of where I'd been my whole career. Basically, I took a small step back in my performance, and that was enough to have me be released, and then have that be my last year in the NFL. I did end up healing myself, but it was too little, too late. I'm doing much better now than I was in 2019 physically, but far too late now.
Yeah, I mean, you went to three NFL teams after the Lions. You went to the Cardinals, Dolphins, Saints for some short stints. Was that still part of the recovery process? I'm assuming you weren't fully there when you were signing with those three other teams.
Correct. I mean, in this, there's variations, right? I mean, obviously, I was fine. I could play in NFL games, but as far as where I needed to be from like an explosiveness, uh, change of direction, a vision, an awareness standpoint, right? It wasn't where it had been in years past. I still think it was that off season where I was able to get a lot of help and get a lot better. And I think maybe if COVID hadn't come around, I still might have gotten signed. Um, I maybe have the timeline a little bit wrong. Uh, but anyway, it's hard, right? When you put out film that's not, when you've taken a step back in your play and then you have film like that, it's hard to get another opportunity.
So when for you did you feel like it was officially time to separate from the NFL and playing wise?
I worked out and I was in shape almost all of the 2020 season.
Okay.
So about through Thanksgiving, I think. And that's when I slowly stopped working out as hard. Uh, and then after the 2020 season was done, I knew I wasn't going to get signed again, so I was essentially forced into retire. I mean, I don't know, what you forced to retire or retired, right? Or kind of
Right.
knew it was over, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough business. Obviously, that 2020 season was bonkers though. It's like you just because they had guys on COVID and the COVID list couldn't play, and then they're bringing back a lot of players and stuff. It
Exactly.
was a
Right.
bonkers
Like, I
year.
mean, like if I'd wanted to get signed, I would have needed to quarantine for however long, right? There's just so
Right.
many more hurdles to signing veteran free agents who are at home.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a bonkers season. So, all right, let's talk about your most memorable play during your playing career. It could be with the Lions, and anywhere in the NFL,
My most memorable play.
or memorable game, something like that.
Like that I personally made,
Yeah, or a part of.
that I was a part of or that I made.
Maybe had a big pass block, Stafford, 70-yard touchdown, something like that.
That's a tough one.
I mean, for me, I'll speak from my perspective. My favorite game from you, we didn't win the game, but it was my favorite game was the 2016 when you guys went to Dallas. You balled out that game in AT&T.
Yeah, that was a good game. I think probably one of my favorite game was a couple weeks prior to that against the Rams, I
Okay, I
think.
remember that one. Yeah, you guys had a nice comeback on that one too.
Yeah. We ran a trap that game. It was like one of the first plays of the game. We ran trap. And I later on in my career and prior to that, I'd gotten wrecked on trap. Like it had not worked. We ran trap and it went for like 15 and I hit both safeties and I almost kept my balance. Uh, that was probably one of my favorite plays. Uh, yeah, I think the Dallas game that was fun. I also
Yeah.
had a play. It was in Arizona in 2018. I scored a touchdown on a duo left, and then I covered the kick and made the tackle on the kickoff coverage the next play.
It's pretty impressive. It's a nice sequence of
Or
events
two
for
plays
sure.
there, right? I wasn't in on the extra point, but we scored. I put the ball in. We put the ball in, right? I happened to be carrying the ball and then kicked the extra point, and then the next play I had a tackle on kickoff.
I remember that game. I think that was later in the year, if I'm not mistaken. That
Mm-hmm.
Arizona game. I remember that one. Yeah.
It was also, I think, I think it was maybe 2016. Earlier in the year, we played the Redskins, and I was playing personal protector, and I had a pancake block on the punt team.
Yeah, that was another crazy game too. Is it which one's the craziest game for you to just be a part of? It doesn't have to be like an individual moment for you, but I mean, I'm assuming it's probably from the 2016 season. But which
At
one is it for you?
Minnesota, for sure. At
Yeah,
Minnesota.
the
I actually
Golden Tate
played
one.
really poorly. I did not play well that game. But at Minnesota, Golden Tate from flipping into the end zone,
Right.
just get Prater from the logo,
Yes.
draining it. You know what I mean? Just everything. That defense, our defense, that game for sure was probably the craziest.
You guys, that one in Washington were like the two up there for me. It's just crazy games. I remember Bolden had a nice touchdown that Washington game. That was another one that was just an electric ending at the end. I mean, you guys were the
The
cardiac lions for real that year.
the second craziest though is actually in the negative is when I was on injury reserve. I'm watching from the sidelines when Aaron Rodgers hit that Hail Mary
Oh,
on I think it was Thursday Night Football or it
yep,
was a night game,
yep.
and like that was like a turning point in our year. Like if we had won that game, we might have made the playoffs.
I think you
Calvin, I
guys do.
remember, yeah, but then the play before he throws it, we defeat it, but they throw a flag on the phantom face mask on Devin Taylor. DT has
Yep.
a phantom face mask. I don't even know how that happens. And then the next play, yeah, that was the craziest ball I've ever seen thrown. It almost hit the roof
Right.
of Ford Field. It almost hit the ceiling, and then it came down right on the spot.
Yeah, ran Richard Rodgers. That I mean, you guys were. I mean, I think you guys lost the week right after, but I think you won every other game after that.
Yeah, and we had started 1-5, I think, or one and
Yeah,
six, or
got a
something like
cold
that.
start and then got hot. I think you guys beat the Rams next week if you guys beat the Packers that Thursday night game. I mean, I know it's like forward speaking. I think you guys just go on
Yeah.
a run and run the table. I think you guys are in the playoffs, and then you don't know because if you guys make the playoffs a year, you don't know what happens. You guys are scary. You guys have hot. You're playing with house money to a certain extent that year. It can get scary.
Well, and then, then they would have been playoffs. I don't remember if they were in the playoffs 13, but then it would have been 14, 15, 16. And then we would have made 17 with the Falcons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that have been, it was near, where you're 2 plays away essentially. And now, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but you're really, in a way, 2 plays away from making the playoffs 4 years in a row.
yeah. That's just the NFL, man. It's a crazy game. One play could change everything. I mean, it changes potentially lives. Jim Caldwell probably doesn't get let go of. He probably gets to keep his job, and who knows what happens
Right.
going there. It's a
Well,
crazy
that's
game.
Greg Olson, I think, said it best on a broadcast this year on a podcast or something like that, where he's saying how like the fate of an NFL head coach comes down to 4 to 5 plays a year during the season.
It's true. It's crazy. It's crazy,
Yeah.
man. All right. Well, I got one more question for you, Zach. Then we could head out of here. What is your, I guess, involvement? I know you said you have kids. It's a little harder to watch football games, but watching the Detroit Lions now, obviously they have turned a corner now and winning NFC Norths, winning playoff games. Obviously, this year didn't go the way that they wanted to, but you know, seeing the transition from the Detroit Lions, how does that make you feel as a former player?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun to watch him. And just to clarify too, I watch a lot of football, but typically if I'm at my house and it's not at a party, I will pause the game because I've got YouTube TV. I'll pause it, go handle the kids, come back, let it roll, and then I'm scrolling through commercials, right? And I'm watching because I got to watch my clients, right? Go out there and ball out, and
Yes.
love watching Detroit as well, and the night game. So a lot of fun. I mean, really, for me, it's Tyler, it's people like you, it's the fans that I interacted with during my time. It's very fun to see them get to enjoy a really dominant football team. Obviously, fell on their face, unfortunately, laid an egg in their playoff game this year, but a lot of fun for me to watch the Lions and again, just for the fans that I interacted with during my time there, fun for me to watch them enjoy the success of this new team and this new franchise. And I mean, still happy for Frank, happy for Deck, right? Graham, I played with all
Right.
those guys.
You
Germ,
did.
um, yeah. So very happy for those guys that put a lot into the organization earlier on in their careers. So to have those guys have success, a lot of fun.
It's definitely cool to see like guys like you mentioned that's kind of been here since the startup of it, and went through some tough years and now get this season and a good experience in winning football and potentially play for more in the future. This is a team that's still on the rise right now, and they're obviously still playing for something for sure. Next year. But before we get out of here, you said you're an agent now. Do you represent any Detroit current Lions right now?
No, we have had two players spend some months on the Lions. Adrian Martinez was
The quarterback, yes.
played for the Lions quarterback in preseason. He's now with the Jets. Ryan Swoboda was an offensive lineman briefly with Detroit. He went down to the Falcons. His career ended up concluding down there.
Okay.
But yeah, so just a couple guys briefly stopping through so far.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get a long term one this offseason. Maybe the staff could get one of your guys and see how that goes. See you in
Maybe,
Detroit a
yeah,
little more
maybe.
often. All right,
Yeah,
Zach.
yeah, that would be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. I miss a lot about Detroit. Still have friends in town. The food. I mean, I need to go back and just do a food
Really?
tour. I like the food in Detroit a lot. I
Is
do.
like the Middle Eastern food or what is it?
Yeah, I mean the Middle Eastern food is awesome. But also like there's a couple really good barbecue places I got to know. Um, I think for me it's just like I didn't have again going back to a time when I didn't have kids, right? Where I went out and like discovered all the best restaurants. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I didn't have kids. Well, now I moved to a place where I haven't lived here as an adult without children. Right? I was in college in South Dakota. I was back home when I was in college, but they don't have any money. I'm not like going, I'm just kind of doing what I have to do. Right. Um, and it's not that we don't go on dates or anything, my wife and I, but still, it's just like in for example, when you're in spring football, the facility closes over the weekend. As a rookie, I stayed there. A lot of vets went home. So I have 2 or maybe even 3 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, where I got to go find food.
Right.
You're digging deep in the pocket, right? You're going deep into Google Maps and finding the goodies when you have to eat out 6 times in a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about before we started. You lived in Melvindale a little bit. There's actually, I know you're a nutrition guy, but you guys had some pizza. They have a very good pizza spot in Melvindale, very famously known on Barstool now. Freddie the Pizza Man. I'm curious, have you ever tried it? Got an 8.7 on his on Dave Portnoy's scale. It's in Melvindale.
Was that there how new is that?
So it's been there for a relatively long time. The review came in 2020, I want to say. It was during COVID.
Hang on, I'm looking it up.
It's a small little shop.
Right off
One
of 94. Oh, Oakwood. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I know where that is. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. Sure. Allen Road. No, never went.
It is I guess, I mean, from Portnoy, Barstool, right? That is the highest ranked pizza in Michigan, and it was right in your area. So I was wondering if you ever gave that
That
a try.
is what what a loss. That
I
was
mean,
like that's like right by where I lived. I mean, I could have walked to that place. Maybe it's good I didn't. Maybe it's good I didn't know about it.
I went one time because the hype, and I made like I told you I was from Farmington area, so I made the 35, 40 minute hike just to try pizza, and it was well worth it. It's the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
Are
You
you
know,
serious? Dude, that's
yeah.
right by where that is. I mean, I kid you not, I could have walked there. Like I'm gonna count the blocks. Let's see. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. It's like 10 blocks away. So like just borderline walking distance.
So if you ever come back, you got a pizza spot to check out.
Heck yeah, I'm going, dude.
There you go. All right.
Heck yeah.
Um,
Right down in that area. Hey, speaking of restaurants, Giovanni's.
that's in Melvindale too.
Might technically be something else. Maybe it's
Okay, but it's
Oakwood.
around that area, downriver.
Giovanni's Ristorante. Their lasagna is the best lasagna you'll ever eat.
Got it. All right. Well, I'm not usually downriver that often, but I'll keep that noted next time I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm
If you
down there.
are down there, their lasagna, it's like and you can order it frozen for like you can order it frozen
Got
and
you.
then they send you like a gallon of the sauce also frozen, right? So then you just have to eat. So we did that for like a New Year's Eve. People came out, we cooked that up. So good. Like it's like crazy thin homemade lasagna with meat with sauce in between each layer. So it's like a size of a normal lasagna piece, but it has like 10 layers in it.
Have you ever had a fresh shawarma from Dearborn? I mean, that's the Middle Eastern capital of the world. I mean, it's right by the
Yeah.
facility.
Heck yeah. I mean, Bucharest Grill is kind of a classic. I actually knew the owner, Bogdan, or know the owner. He's a great guy. Al Sultan. Shout out to Al Sultan. I hope to get crazy business. Al Sultan. That is Garden City. That was my favorite Middle Eastern place.
There you go. I'm assuming you probably haven't had that much Middle Eastern food prior joining the Lions. I'm assuming they don't have that in South Dakota as much.
Oh my gosh, no, no.
I was just speaking as a Middle Eastern. I don't know a Middle Eastern from South Dakota, respectfully.
No.
Yeah,
There's no, there's no I mean so, but in college, right? It's just like Applebee's was like the only place, I went in Brookings, South Dakota. In Minnesota, I just need to branch out more. Again, I'm just not going out to eat 6 times a weekend, right? It's like we're gonna hit up our
right.
favorites. There's good food, but it's no, I haven't found I'm sure they're out here, right? I'm sure they're here. I just know Detroit better, honestly. I know Detroit, like you talk about, like I know exactly where things are. I can get around. I spent a lot of my life there because I lived there in the off seasons. I didn't leave.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Probably very familiar with the Metro Detroit area. It's a nice area. I mean, I've lived obviously my whole life. I'm gonna be biased towards that, but I love the area here. So, all right,
Yeah.
Zach, that's all I have for you. I appreciate you coming on, spending some time. I didn't expect to have a food conversation at the end of this, but I love it. That was awesome. So appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy, taking some time out of your day. Do you have anything you would like to promote for your business or anything?
Um, I think, for most of the people listening, likely not NFL prospects, so that kind of excludes the agency. But as far as the health coaching stuff, absolutely, right? If anyone, any of your or listeners or subscribers or whatever, however you want to describe them, the people that are going to be watching this, if any of those people are interested in getting more energy, optimizing, getting healthier, um, improving mental focus, sleeping better, right? Improving body composition. These are all things that I've helped people with. And because I had to help them with myself when our third son was born, it got real tough for me to stay healthy. My NFL strategies failed me. I couldn't go to the gym for 2 hours a day anymore. Had to make it work in my life as a business owner times two, husband and dad of three boys, and do it in a way that cared for my body right long term. That's what I'm helping my current clients do right now, and it's a lot of fun. We get a lot of work done. I just had one of my clients. He wrapped up my program at 5 months. He's got four young girls. One just went off to college. They run a yogurt shop. He gained 12 pounds of muscle and lost 2 inches on his waist.
Wow. And how does that work? Is this like you're FaceTiming them, making plans for them, or
All virtual
email chain,
stuff.
text chain?
Yeah,
Okay.
all done virtually. We meet the full package. You have 9 meetings. It's just me. I'm
Okay.
coaching you. You're not getting an intern, at least not yet.
When the thing blows up, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm coaching you. I'm coaching you one on one. Hey, let's get after it. Let's develop a plan that's sustainable and consistent. This is not a get fit quick scheme. This isn't a get 6 abs in 6 weeks. I want to help people develop things that they can sustain for the long term because that's when they're going to see results.
That's awesome. So if you guys want to work with Zach Zenner, there you guys go. You guys have an opportunity there. How should they reach
Yeah.
you? Is that
Yeah, I'm
Twitter,
active
Instagram?
on I'm active on X. I'm active on LinkedIn. You can message me on Instagram. I check all those pretty regularly.
Okay,
Can also just book a free call if you'd like. Zion-performance.com is my website. There's a free consult button on there. Happy to have a conversation with whomever.
that's awesome. All right, Zach.
Yeah,
Again, I appreciate you so much for joining. Love what you're doing, post NFL, making the most out of it, man. So it's awesome. So thank you so much for joining again. We will see you guys next week with another episode. So that is it. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Peace out, guys.
yeah. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Zach.